Hi everyone. Today, as promised, I'm going to show you how to build this very chart now that you assumably have the logic behind the source tables. Now, if you haven't already done so, I highly recommend you first watch the part 1 of this 2.5 part series on how I went about creating these 4 charts. Yes, I know it's a little long, but that's why I've broken them up into these segments. In this video, I'm going to create basically a duplicate of this chart, might not be exactly the same, and then I'll move on to ways that you could actually possibly improve on it further, depending on what your needs are for this chart. Okay, now the first thing I'd like to do is first demonstrate why it was important to create this purple table and not solely rely on the yellow table seen here. Okay, I'm going to click and drag all of the yellow table all the way to the bottom. Holding down Control, Shift, and then down arrow will take you to the bottom. Next, I'll go to Insert, Line Chart, Non-Stacked Line Chart, so just line. Okay, there we go. That looks a lot like it, maybe. But if you look at it, you'll notice that after the debts actually hit 0, they keep going. And the only reason you only see one color is because they're overlapping each other. This is less desirable than if we were to go this route using the purple table, which is very similar to the yellow table, but look, after it hits 0, the line stops, and that's what we really wanted. Now you'll notice that eventually the total line does perfectly overlap the student loan once the student loan is the last balance remaining, but that's fine. You'll notice in my chart what I did to resolve that issue is I made the total line dotted. So we go select the total line, and then we go to line style, and there's a bunch of different line patterns. I don't remember exactly what I used. We'll say it was that. And now you can still see the blue line behind the orange. Now in the chart, you'll notice that for the total, I have both an area chart that's faded out in the back, and then I also have the line. And to do that, you just need 2 identical columns. I went ahead and said total and then total area to be able to tell the difference between the two. So if we go here, and all we have to do is just stretch this over 1, and you'll notice the formula here is just whatever's in the next the cell to the left. Okay, let's look. Okay, of course, that orange line has disappeared because the total area has moved on top of it. We'll select it, go to change series type, and we'll change it to a area chart, not a stacked area chart, just a regular one. Okay, and I unfortunately can't figure out exactly what percentage I use, but in order to make it transparent, you just select it, go to Format, Data Series, Fill, solid fill, or whatever. I chose a dark color, and I don't know, let's just call it 50%. That's probably a bit more transparent than my example was. That's okay. Click outside, so you have all the lines here. And so the reason why I incorporate both a area chart and a line, and you'll notice in future videos that anytime I have an area chart, I go ahead and throw a line in with it, because for some reason that I don't know, area charts don't allow you to have markers. It's not one of the options here. I don't know if 2013 has the same problem, but of course line charts you can have markers. See marker options. And so it's just a lot easier to label individual points along a line curve than it is individual points along the top of an area chart. One thing I also do is I adjust the dates so that it's on tick marks. So notice how there's this little gap in between the vertical axis and the lines in the area. We're going to change that, and boom, that disappears. Okay, looks pretty good. For the background, just to be fancy, I grabbed this picture off of Google. I might have done a few adjustments using the corrections in here or the color or the artistic effects. I'll let you decide what you want to do. But let's just pretend I was satisfied with this as it is right off of Google. I'm going to select somewhere where there isn't the area chart or the lines, and I'm going to select the plot area, format plot area, picture or texture fill. Now I just copied the picture, by the way, and go to clipboard, and there you have it. That looks pretty good. All right. Go back, and we want to change this. I do happen to know that I had this at about 46%. Okay, that might look a little bit more faded than my chart was. Next, I'm going to click on a point of each one of the lines except for the total one. And if you select individual point, which is a lot easier if you have markers, just click on it until you only see one point being selected. Then we're going to right click and add data label. Now if you click on the line just once, it'll probably label will be plural, and you don't want that. I'll show you what happens. So that's what you want pretty much. I'll adjust it. Now after one click, see you have multiple points selected. Add data labels. Let's see what that does. See, it's terrible, right? We don't want that. So we're going to delete all of them. And then we just have to be really careful to only select one and add one data label. This can be annoying, I know, but you just have to deal with it. I won't go through all of those, but I'll also go to Format Data Label. If you click on it incorrectly, probably, let's see, if I click on it just once, yeah, if I clicked on the data label once, then again, it's going to pluralize it. So what you have to do is click on it twice, and now it's singular. And what we actually wanted was the series name and not the value. Okay, that looks good. And so you do that for all of your det lines. And what I did to be a little fancy on the total line is I specifically marked out what the current month was and what that month's total was specifically, which is a little fancy. To do that, I added an additional column to my purple area, and I called it this month, exclamation mark. What it is if the month here equals the month using the today function. So is it this month? And also we have to make sure that it's this current year because we go over multiple years. If so, then give me W2, which is the total amount in dollars. Okay, so that's a pretty simple formula. You guys can find it. And otherwise, it's going to print out NA. So it's only going to show a single point. Okay, and actually, by doing this, you're still going to go down to add it. We'll just stretch out the blue marked range, okay? And so this month, and so you look at your chart and you ask yourself, where is this month? It doesn't seem to be showing. Because lines will only show if you have two adjacent points that aren't blanks or NAs. So what you're going to have to do instead, in order to select this missing line, is we can go to select the chart, layout, plot area, and we're looking for the series this month. Okay, it is assumably selected. It's kind of weird that I can't see it. Format selection, which is what we just selected there, and we're going to say built in. Okay, but snowballs are typically round, so we'll pick the round circle. We'll change the marker fill to I don't know. We'll say that. We'll remove the marker line, which is basically the marker border. Okay. We are going to go back to options and increase it to something a bit larger. It would be too complicated to try to make a marker that actually increases in size as you go down, but that would be pretty cool if anyone wants to take a stab at that. I'll probably wind up doing it eventually. We will go to 3D format, and you can decide what one of these formats looks best. That is a very dark snowball. I'll change that to something. Okay, that looks a bit more similar to what I had. Okay, in the chart, I then labeled that one with the current month and of course the value, which is easy. we'll just go to Format Data Point, or no we won't. We will right click it and add data label. Notice it's not plural. Okay, it's going to assume we want the value, but that's only half the story. We also want the series name as well as the value, and we want it to be above. And to separate the series name from the value, instead of a comma, which is the default, we are going to use a new line. Okay, and we are also going to change the number format. Now I'm kind of surprised that this actually wound up working. How does that look? That's pretty close. There we go. Just look at this format. I don't really have time to go over, but $, pound, period, pound, comma, K, with no space. That's how I like it. A semicolon, semicolon, $0, K. All right. Okay, I'll close that. I'll make it bold. And that is pretty much my chart. I also included a title, and I might have modified this to be of that custom format here. That looks nice and it uses less space. Great. And if I wanted to be fancy, I'd probably say, even though I know this will never actually show the line color, no line. There, now even the label here is correct. Cool. Okay. Now, so that's how you make the chart like I did, but there are several things that you might want to consider alternatively. Now, in my first video on this subject, I mentioned how I almost didn't bother to include the total in the first place, and that was mostly because I was afraid that since the total is by definition going to be the sum of all the other different debts together, that means the vertical axis, in order to show it at its highest point, is going to have to be stretched much more than if we just showed the debts individually, like they are here. So let's say we didn't have the total displayed or recorded, then we probably could have set, I'll do it right now, format axis. We could set the maximum axis value to something like, I don't know, I believe 25,000. Okay, and that just makes you really able to focus on the change in the actual individual debts by themselves. So it really depends on what you actually want out of your chart. Do you want to be focusing on what your overall debt balances, or do you want to more carefully focus on the nitty-gritty parts of your individual debts? If it's the latter, then you probably don't need your total. Now, the only reason I included this little piece was just to demonstrate it's not very apparent. It almost looks like the total line is linear, and so what I went ahead and did is I just went to Insert and got a right triangle out so that I could point out the fact that if you look at the right triangle here, the hypotenuse is perfectly tangent with the line, but later on, if we move the same triangle down a little bit, you'll notice all of a sudden this line must have gotten steeper because now the hypotenuse is going beyond the lines. And so just to prove that this line is in fact bending, I used a right triangle, kind of like a carpenter's square. So that's pretty cool. You, of course, don't have to include this carpenter's square into your chart. This is purely for educational purposes. But the last thing that I think I want to demonstrate in this video is how the additional payments table works, or that in fact it does work the way that it's supposed to. So say we make a payment to credit card number 1 for the amount of $200, which I'll just enter as 200 positive. We'll say it was on 11 of 2014. The line shifted. You'll notice this line kind of dips down a little bit. It's kind of hard to notice, largely because of how high the total is stretching out the vertical axis. So let's do something a little bit more extreme. Let's take card 2 and say that we paid off $3,000. There, boom. Now notice that that's definitely a deep decline in the accurate month, and as a result the total also shifts. Okay, so that's pretty cool, and just to show you, it also is being applied here. Alright, so that's all for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I probably will create one more video on this topic so that I can show you one last addition that you can make to this chart. that might be of value. What it will be is to demonstrate before we made these adjustments, we were planning on being done with our debts in March of 2020, but if we make these payments now, we'll be done in July or somewhere shortly after July of 2019. So what I want to do is I actually want to lock in what our previous estimate was, just so we can kind of feel like we're really making progress by comparing what the absolute worst scenario is compared to what our present position is. And I think that would be pretty cool, and it's actually pretty easy, so it'll be a very short video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you for watching. If you liked this, please subscribe or just like it via pushing that little thumbs up button. Thanks for watching. Bye.